Yes guys, it is finally here, the Kirby the Forgotten Land boss ranking video. This normally happens with every new game, and I just wanted to give you guys some time to play the game before talking about this. But today we have a list of 25 different bosses, mini bosses, and even one boss that's kind of in its own category because it's not technically a boss, but I put it on this list and you'll see it when it arrives. But with 25 different bosses, there's a lot to go over here, so we're going to go through them pretty quick, at least until we get to the top 10. So stop what you're doing, leave a like, and let's see how many people we can get to subscribe to this video alone. Before we get started, I want to thank today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends has taken over, and gaming will never be the same again. Raid is the first game to bring a true console-level experience to your phone. You set the bar high and there's no going back. Use my QR code or links below to download Raid yourself to your mobile phone or PC. I myself have been playing Raid Shadow Legends for a while now, and these are some of the champions that have been resonating with me the most. I really like Elhain because I'm a big bow and arrow type of guy. You guys definitely know that if you've seen any of my gameplays with anything with a bow, I'm definitely using it. The inclusion of Elhain and her bow, I thought it would work really well with Ethos and his sheer legendary power, and Cardiel, who is just an all-around super great character. One thing I love about Raid Shadow Legends is how quick it is compared to traditional RPGs. You can simply get your champions, get everything you need, your gear, and immediately jump into battle, and from battle to battle without any hesitation. Everything moves so seamlessly. This month is Raid's 3-year anniversary, and the celebrations are going to be huge. While we're waiting, check this out. Raid's first ever champion skins. They look absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to get my hands on them myself. Just look at them. Skins let you alter a champion's appearance to something that suits your style and preference. I personally like Arbiter the most. There's seriously never been a better time to get started, and if you use my link or scan the QR code right here on screen, new players will get a free starter pack with almost $40 to kickstart your game. We're talking free champions, Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero, 10 Magic XP Brew, 10 Force XP Brew, and 10 Spirit XP Brew. You will find these rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. Once you're in, you can find me in-game under the name Nin10doland, and if you're fast enough, you can join my clan. And it's that easy, just click the link in the description and I'll see you in the game. And thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Starting our list and coming in at number 25 as probably the worst boss in the game is Fleurina. Fleurina is a new style of mini boss for this game specifically, but I just don't think she's that fun to fight. Literally all she does is spin around. Yes, there is some challenge to her, but that's literally the only attack. You're fighting Tornado. You are fighting the Tornado ability, and it's just not fun on Kirby's side. It's not that fun to use that ability personally. Fighting against it is just as bad. I'm just not a big fan of her. Wild Bonkers is once again Bonkers returning, and he plays just like he does in the 2D games. He swings that hammer around and tries to hit Kirby with different hammer attacks, and even coming down from the air on top. But that's really about it. He used to throw these like explosive nuts, but now he throws some type of bomb durians at Kirby, and the later versions get a lot harder. He throws a lot more of them in his Forgo version in the post game, but that's really about it. Coming in at number 23, we have Wild Frosty. Wild Frosty is just as goofy and crazy as he is in his 2D games. He'll shake his butt and even kind of like twerk snowballs at Kirby. I don't know what that is, but he'll also have a lot of other attacks as well. He'll throw giant snowballs, cause ice to come up from the ground, rush Kirby with a dash attack, and even try to slowly chase him like he's trying to pick him up. It's terrifying. I don't really like his, motives here, but he is a fun boss to fight. Coming in at number 22, another classic being Wild Edge from Gigan Edge from the past Kirby games. I think this is one of my favorite mini bosses in the game just because it has a unique way to stun it. It'll throw up this giant shield and you have to run behind it in order to knock it down. I just think that's very unique, and none of the other mini bosses really have something like this, and I like that technique. Finding the weak point and exposing it, causing you to do some mass damage to them while they're knocked down. Really good boss fight. Next up we have our one not really boss, not really mini boss kind of boss, and that's Tortuilding. It's this giant turtle stuck in a building. I'm very upset that the game actually didn't have more bosses like this, like they did in their past games that you could do some cool interactions with in order to defeat. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It was really fun to kind of maneuver your way all the way to the end and find a way to get on top and destroy him. And then the big red version later on made it even more difficult because it would breathe fire-covered debris at Kirby from the background, which was, sometimes kind of difficult to dodge, and it made the battle a lot more interesting. Coming in at number 20, we have Gorimondo, the first boss of the game. This boss had a lot of potential, but for me, it just didn't come through. I felt like a lot of his attacks were soft and weak. Maybe he's just a big softy at heart. but it really translates to the battle and it just doesn't feel that exciting. He'll lift his leg up to do a giant stomp and then barely hit the ground for a little shockwave. It's just like, what? Especially considering the fact that 90% of the battle is just him swinging his arm at you and all you have to do is just push the jump button. You should be able to beat this boss pretty easily. Tropic Woods was just another way for them to have Wispy Woods back, and it's fun to actually fight him in 3D though, but it is very easy, and when you got the right ability, you can absolutely just go crazy on this guy. But assuming that this is the beginning of the game and you're not coming back to fight him again, this is actually a decent fight. As far as Wispy Woods goes, this is good because normally you just stand beside the tree and pound, but now you actually have to move around, dodge the giant falling coconuts. You can't even just stand beside it and just start wailing on it because eventually, halfway through, he'll start putting up this giant fence that will knock Kirby all the way back if you're too close. For the first 3D version of Wispy Woods, I actually really liked this fight. Phantom Gorimondo was only slightly better in my opinion. It added some new attacks and added the ability to have like all these little twisters come out from his central twister, but that's about it. He just moves a lot faster now and you have to get used to that for the first couple of swings. It doesn't really add anything unique to the boss fight or anything, and I feel like it's a very basic fight still at the same time. But hey, at least he stomps a lot harder now and causes even faster shockwaves and even bigger ones. Clawroline is one of the first bosses Kirby fights in this game that's actually at least close to his size compared to everybody else. And it actually plays like that. She's very quick and agile, and all of her attacks are going to come at Kirby a lot faster than most of the others, which was one of the first times I actually had to utilize the dodge roll a lot more, because those claw swipes would come at you quick. And they could be very difficult, especially as she jumps down from the catwalk at the top. She can really come down a lot faster than it looks, meaning you have to dodge at the very last second to get your licks in. I also really just like how she utilizes other parts of the stage in order to attack, for instance using the background instead of just fighting Kirby in the main ground. Now where Clawroline introduced me to the dodge roll, Sillydillo actually made me become a pro at it. I also like how this boss fight has 3 different phases technically to it, even though each phase he's only doing like 1 attack ever. The first phase he's chasing Kirby in this weird area that's got tons of junk everywhere and even kind of copies of Kirby that he's made hanging from the ceiling, but he's just trying to capture Kirby. He'll swing this cage around and all you have to do is jump over it, but that's really the only attack that he'll do for the entire first wave. For wave 2, he'll break underground and take you to a new area where he'll roll at you very fast. It gives you a slight second to make a dodge, but you have to dodge out of the way at the right second as he does 3 consecutive rolls back and forth until eventually knocking himself out, allowing you to hit him pretty hard. And the third and final phase is actually kind of hilarious because he makes some type of dancer for himself out of trash and different pieces that he's collected throughout the years, and he starts dancing with her, spinning across the stage and even throwing multiple of them at Kirby, which can actually be kind of hard to dodge because they actually home into Kirby as they're spinning. So I actually found this boss fight to be pretty entertaining. It was a really cool battle arena and I thought it was a lot of fun. Phantom Sillydillo is really just a small step up from the original. It just does things a lot faster, kind of like Gorimondo, and doesn't really add too many new attacks. The only main new attack that it adds is it has the ability to cause dust to fly everywhere and kind of fog up the screen so it's harder to see when he's rolling. But once again, thanks to that slowdown of the screen right before he hits you, it gives you enough time to dodge no matter what. And he just does more rolls. He does things a lot more and just a lot more fast. So that's really about it with him. Next up, we have the first King Dedede boss fight. This boss fight was actually really good. He also utilizes the background a little bit by pulling different objects from it. First, he's just trying to pound Kirby with hammers and also causing shockwaves as he's landing on the ground and doing his signature run at Kirby and dive or trip or whatever he's doing. And then, of course, he grabs his giant pillar in the background and starts just throwing it around at Kirby. It's very, very satisfying to jump over it when he throws it horizontal, and also to just dodge out of the way at the last second when he slams it down vertical. He also has an attack where he causes this shockwave on the floor where you have to get out of the way or float at the right second, and it's actually really satisfying to dodge his attacks and to fight him. I really like this battle, and it just shows the pure force that King Dedede is in a 3D space. In the same vein as fighting King Dedede, it was also very cool to fight Meta Knight for one of the first times in 3D, and he plays so good. He plays like a very fast swordsman, and this is almost one of those battles where you kind of have to battle him with your sword. I never really like to do so in 2D, but 3D, it just feels right. Dodging at the right time and slashing him with the sword. They've been doing cool sword clashes where you'll clash together and, you know, you have to hurry up and mash the button and flip his sword away. And the fact that he even flies away and gets his classic sword from the classic games, there's so much care and joy brought into this battle. I love that he can take to the air, go into the background, cause things to fall out of the sky. This is a really good boss battle against Meta Knight, and probably one of my favorites. At 12, one of the very first battles with probably the boss with the worst name in the game, being Leongar. I know his real name is Leon, which makes sense, But Leongar, I'm sorry guys, I just don't like the name. It just sounds so weird. But anyways, enough about the name. This boss was actually a lot of fun and a really good kind of first final boss, if you will, right before you fight some of the craziest things in this game. Leongar is a giant lion, the leader of the beast pack, that's being mind-controlled by the specimen in the back, which we'll find out who he is later. But I love this boss fight. The very first half is just him slashing claws and really just him being angry himself at Kirby, but then eventually being taken over halfway through and gaining the ability to fire giant lasers out of his mouth and even shoot all these different projectiles out of his claws that you can't just sit there and dodge. You actually have to jump over and get in between and even crawl underneath some of the slash marks, and I really love that. And there's even like a scary part where he'll try to bite your head off as he's rushing at you, taking multiple bites. It's actually kind of scary. But one thing I really admire the most is this voice actor. Do you listen to the pain and agony that he's in as he's trying to fight Kirby as he's being controlled? I mean, listen to him when he fires the laser. Number 11, we have Phantom Clawroline. I really like this one because it feels more circusy than the first one, and that's what the whole battle kind of is happening in, is a big top inside of the circus tent. And you can see her duplicate herself into multiple different versions trying to attack Kirby. I really love the attack with just multiple versions of her coming down from the sky. And I just really think it's a more fast-paced, more energetic, more entertaining boss fight than what we've seen from the past one. Not to mention, she keeps you on your toes with those knives, man, and she's throwing them out. Coming in at number 10, we have the creepy, invasive species Fecto Forgo. Fecto Forgo is just creepy. It's a combination of Leongar and all types of different Beast Pack members put together into one goopy mess, and it is just terrifying. Now, this is probably one of the easiest bosses to beat in the game, and I'm not really rating these on if they're hard or not. I'm rating these on how fun they are and how interesting they were to fight, and this was definitely one of the most interesting fights I've ever seen in a video game, let alone in Kirby, because it's just something like it's out of a horror game. How is this in a Kirby game as you're running down this hallway trying to fight this giant mass of goo as it's chasing you? The first couple times fighting this, it's just kind of pure shock, and it's really easy, but still a very cinematic point of the game that's really transitioning to the main final boss. I really like it. Phantom King Dedede is actually a very good boss fight, but it once again just kind of makes his attacks a lot quicker and, you know, a lot more often. There's not a big change with him besides the second phase. He now can throw these giant pillar type of Gordos at Kirby, but that's really about it. He'll also have the pillar again and just swing it a lot faster, but it's still a really fun boss fight, and he's just very aggressive to Kirby, and you're just going to have to pay attention to everything that's going on stage. I also like the fact that now he can throw Gordos just like he can in Smash Brothers and like he could in the original games, and I just think it comes together really nicely, and it really feels like a King Dedede boss fight at its core. It's a really good boss fight. Number 8, we have Forgo Dedede, which is pretty much just Mass Dedede. This time it's the same battle, but this time he kind of ups the ante and has a whole bunch of new attacks with his hammers, which actually causes lava to come out of them and lava tornadoes as well. He'll jump up in the air, cause lava spires to come out from underneath them and different types of shockwaves, and of course he also has the ability to spin around and cause a little bit of tornadoes. He has a little bit of each copy ability, it feels like, but he also has a phase 2 after depleting his health all the way, where he'll kind of turn into a lunatic, and he'll run around the stage like a wild boar and start charging after Kirby and chasing after him. This is actually a lot of fun to fight him like this, and it changes the battle from more of a heavy hitter to a fast-paced enemy that Kirby has to be on his toes and watch out every move with. I really like this, and it adds two really unique parts to this boss fight. Phantom Tropic Woods was surprisingly one of my favorite bosses in the entire game. It completely ups the ante from the original version and adds so many more things. It has giant coconuts that will explode on contact and a whole bunch of Gordos falling from the tree as well, and also his breath has a new attack where it circles around and tries to hit Kirby all over the ground. But there's even more than that. This time, instead of just putting a fence in front of him, he puts up a fence maze that Kirby has to traverse in order to make his way to Tropic Woods and attack him, which I love so much. There's also a new attack where he'll put these roots that chase after Kirby, but also blow these giant gusts of air that the only way to dodge them is to jump on top of the roots and jump over it. I love that mechanic where you're actually using one of the boss's attacks as a platform in order to hurt it, and we'll see this again one more time later on, but I just love this, and what they did with Tropic Woods this time around really made the boss become one of the best Wispy Wood bosses I've ever seen in a Kirby game. I love this so much, and especially that maze. That's a ton of fun. With the second version of Phantom Dedede, we have Phantom Forgo Dedede. Yeah, it's a big title. Some of these boss names, I tell you, but man, he gets so many new attacks in this version. For one, he gets this cyclone that he goes around the stage and it even leaves a trail of lava behind. But what makes this boss so unique, once again, is that he utilizes the stage and even the background to really fight Kirby. This time, he can actually move and shift the way the stage moves and even sink some of it in lava, making the battle have to take place on a small little platform, you know, up above the lava, which is really unique, and you have to completely keep your eyes out and open for this lava part, especially as he's throwing all types of attacks at you. And once again, he can go into the background, and you can even attack him if you have a ranged item, such as Ranger, and he'll throw things at you from back there. I really love this, and it's not only a very difficult boss fight, but it's also a very fun one. My only gripe with it is the actual Forgo Isles, which is the post-game, is in this weird color scheme, and this world's all pink, where most of the worlds have different colorways like blue and green. The pink version is just kind of hard to see anything, and sometimes I get lost in where the lava is. But it's a small gripe, the boss battle is still great. Now down to our final 5. Number 5, we have Phantom Meta Knight. This is a Meta Knight battle, but at its highest intensity. Meta Knight is flying around the stage, throwing every type of laser beam at you and everything. He's throwing lava blocks and just zip-zapping around the stage. Just something very fun, I feel like, with a 1v1 battle with somebody around Kirby's size, and you're just kind of throwing swords at each other, and it's nothing like it's this giant creature or anything. It's just this very fast, you know, Kirby character that's trying to fight Kirby, and it's just something that's a lot of fun about this 1v1 duel where Meta Knight's flying around the stage and just zip-zapping everywhere. This is a really good boss fight. Speaking of 1v1 duels with knights, we have Morpho Knight, the secret boss at the very end of the game. Morpho Knight is very fun to fight, and lots of his moves come from Kirby Star allies, but this time around we get to see them in a 3D space, and dodging them makes it a lot more difficult. He has giant swords that he'll swing, throwing up whirls of fire all over the stage, and he even has different attacks such as manipulating the screen, making Kirby dizzy and hard to control, and also sending out Forgo spirits out at Kirby to do mass damage. He is a very powerful foe, and he's definitely disappearing all the time. Whenever you try to slash him, he'll disappear and reappear behind Kirby to attack him. It's like a faster, stronger Meta Knight, and I really liked this boss fight. Coming in at number 3, the boss right before Morpho Knight, we have Forgo Leon. This time he starts off automatically angry from the very beginning, and you have to fight his rage phase at first, before he even gets even more powerful, which is kind of crazy. He'll do his usual stuff, like throwing out lasers at you and even doing attacks a lot faster than normal, but it's not until phase 2 until you realize, man, this boss has a lot up its sleeves. The Forgo spirit is unleashed and fights alongside Leon, not just as part of him, which means Leon gets a ton of new abilities and also gets a partner to help battle with him. He'll get lightning orbs that travel across the stage, and he'll also have Forgo fly around and shoot out different waves of dark energy to try to hit Kirby. And all the attacks from Leon leaves a trail of dark energy that if Kirby walks over, he'll take damage. This is a very high stakes, high packed battle, and it's just really cool to have kind of this 2v1 situation where Kirby's technically battling two different creatures. Coming in at number 2, we have the main story's final boss, Fecto Elfilis. Now, if you played any Kirby game, you can pretty much guarantee that the final boss is going to be the best character in this game. I mean, seriously, this was just amazing fun. This creature is just floating around in the sky, trying to hit Kirby from afar, and eventually taking the battle up close right next to him. He has tons of melee attacks with his spear and also tons of projectiles that he'll shoot also from his spear. But once again, once he gets that halfway mark, that's when he really opens up and starts going crazy. In fact, he opens up a star portal in the sky, bringing in tons of different debris and stuff, like he's almost throwing a planet at Kirby like he's Thanos against Iron Man or something. But this is just some of his power, because he's also able to string some of his attacks together, like he's actually a playable character hitting combos. I think that's the most unique part about this boss, is that sometimes he'll switch up and change the way he attacks. He'll hit you with range attack, come in for a close attack, back to a range attack, and come back in with the spear for another close attack. It's crazy. He also has a method of healing himself by duplicating fake copies to, distract Kirby as he's trying to heal, which is just insane. This guy is crazy. There's also some cool end parts where Kirby has to rip off Elfilin from Fecto Elfilis before he gets stabbed by his spear, and also the cool part where you get Big Rig Kirby, where he drives an actual semi all the way through Fecto Elfilis. Now, this wasn't the greatest kind of part at the end. You kind of were just mindlessly driving this truck. It's probably very difficult to actually try to kill yourself as driving the semi. It's just pretty simple. You're driving it straight through some buildings and then, you know, mashing some buttons at the very end, but it's very cinematic. It feels very powerful, and it just feels so great to smash through this guy with a semi. Fecto Elfilis may have had a very cinematic boss fight that felt really fun and fresh to fight him at the very first time when you did this. Chaos Elfilis is seriously the most insane boss in this entire game, and probably the creepiest. First off, just look at the guy. He looks like pure nightmare fuel, and he actually kind of reminds me of some type of like final Pokemon, legendary Pokemon that you get at the end of the game, but it's just really, really creepy looking, and he has tons of attacks. He really utilizes dimensional rifts by teleporting across the stage and trying to hit Kirby, and that combo thing I said earlier, he'll actually switch up his combos and pause and teleport before hitting you, making you dodge too early and then attacking you right after. Now, this is one of the very first times and instances in the game you can't just randomly dodge whenever you want, because he will fake you out and make you pay for it, and his combos will be extended extra long. He also has a new attack where blades will circle Kirby and he has to jump out of the way at the last second, which is just absolutely intense stuff happening in this game. His projectiles you can no longer just run from. Some of them will require you to jump over, and some of them you'll have to just straight up dodge. They're moving so quick as well. Now he'll get into his second phase halfway through, and he'll have a giant soul version of himself in the background, which I think is just awesome. It's once again that kind of duo effect where two players are fighting against Kirby, and it's crazy. This thing will swipe his sword across the stage horizontally very slowly, but what makes this very difficult is Elfilis is actually fighting you as well as his spirit form below you is fighting you at the same time. So you'll have to keep your eyes on both characters at the same time, and it's just very distracting sometimes, but something that I think is just super cool. Did I also mention that he can blast lasers through these dimensional rifts as well? It's kind of crazy. And these portals he opens up now throws like fastballs at you instead of these slow meteorites. I mean, he is beaming these things at Kirby. And instead of Kirby ripping out Elfilin from him, he's actually ripping out his soul, which leads into yet again another phase. Part 3. Kirby is now fighting the soul of Chaos Elfilis, and it's just absolutely insane. There's so many creepy noises and stuff that comes from it. You can even hear the creepy noise of the tour guide when you were back in Lab Discovera. Take a listen.
And here we are.
Just absolutely eerie, and this thing kind of plays like a dark matter clone where it's shooting lasers with all these different little orbs around him and changing and shape-shifting into all these different things and shooting these different projectiles that we've seen from past Kirby games, and also has lots of moves from different bosses from past Kirby games. Very interesting, but that's a theory for another time. This thing has the ability to shoot thousands of lasers all over the stage and even transform into a fiery version and fly off through the foreground and background, where you'll have to climb up stairs of blocks in order to jump over him. I mean, come on, this thing was so well made. This boss has so many different forms of attacks, it's actually quite insane. And to end the game with a special extra boss battle, this was one of my favorite boss battles I think Kirby has ever done. Congrats to HAL Labs for the creepy vibe that this creature gives, and also the amazing boss fight that it gave as well. And that was the top 25 bosses ranked from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Let me know down below what your ranking would be and where you would put these bosses, and what was your favorite boss in the game. Let me know all your information down below, and thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby and the Forgotten Land, because I have so many more details from lore and all types of story elements coming very, very soon. So make sure that you're subbed for that. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.